Probably you're interested what the course is all about and why it is called analytical reading. Well, let us speak about the course and about the purposes of the course. The course Analytical Reading has multiple purposes: enrichment of critical, analytical skills and cultural knowledge, learning language, the exploitation of texts for reading skills, vocabulary, writing, speaking, and structure fluency, and for the development of an understanding and a familiarity with literary texts and concepts, and of course the relation of texts to life experience. The texts were selected for their high artistic quality, language accessibility, interest level, and representativeness of diverse settings. The texts can be subjectively graded here: easy, moderate, and difficult, on the basis of linguistic difficulty, vocabulary level, and syntactic complexity. The linguistic difficulty varies throughout the book: stories with clear narrative plots and texts with more difficult plots and abstract themes. Text length is purposely varied throughout the book. Each text is glossed for text-specific vocabulary and university-level vocabulary items. And I would recommend you and urge you to read each literary text twice, at least twice, once without a dictionary to get the main ideas, and again in closer detail with a dictionary. It is also worthwhile to note that you will be allowed to contribute your own interpretations and views of texts, and this, I suppose, is one of the most important aspects of our lectures. Rather than prescribe one set interpretation of a story, you can be led to become confident proponents of your text analysis skill. It must be stressed that you must prove your interpretations by drawing support from the text, and this is also one of the most important aspects of our lectures. This experience will enable you to independently analyze university-level texts in any field. Tasks in general are designed to integrate skills and encourage communication. Texts are supported by a sufficient number of exercises. Exercises that accompany texts vary according to the demands of the text and include pre-reading exercises and post-reading exercises. At first glance, the writer's perspective exercises provide background on topics, themes, historical settings, cultural situations, writing genre, and author background. Post-reading exercises vary according to the demands of each text and include understanding the text. Activities include text analysis, retelling the story, finding main ideas and details, drawing inferences, scanning, and determining plot. Literary elements such as plot, narrator, setting, theme, characterization, tone, symbolism, and figures of speech will be presented and practiced. And I do hope, that the course will help you develop and refine creative and critical reading, master the techniques of analyzing and interpreting literary texts in English. And it will help you synthesize your learning in previous courses. Well, generally, as you can see, the course is intended to put theory into practice. And in today's speech, we must try to get engaged with a short story, The Cop and the Atom, by an American short story writer, O. Henry. And now let me try to give you certain kinds of instructions that you might find helpful enough to understand, analyze, and interpret the story. And first of all, let us work out the strategy for understanding, analysis, and interpretation. Read O. Henry's story both as a work of literature and as a piece of historical context about which it was written. Draw inferences insightfully from the text. Get engaged with the text and apply various strategies. Consider the biographical, historical, and cultural context. Identify the problem the author is trying to resolve. identify the author's attitude, identify the relationship between the main point and the supporting points, draw deep implications insightfully from the text, focus on literary and language means. And now about the author, about O. Henry. O. Henry was an American short story writer, a master of surprise endings, who wrote about the life of ordinary people in New York City. His books are enjoyed by millions of people all over the world. William Sidney Porter, O. Henry, was born in Greensboro, North Carolina. His father was a physician. When William was 3, his mother died, and he was raised by his paternal grandmother and aunt. He first found his success as a writer in prison. He was convicted of embezzling money, although there has been much debate over his actual guilt. While in prison, O. Henry started to write short stories to earn money to support his daughter. After doing 3 years of the 5-year sentence, Porter emerged from the prison, changed his name to O. Henry, and went to New York, where he published hundreds of stories, 600 short stories during his lifetime. O. Henry's last years were shadowed by alcoholism. He suffered from poor health and financial problems. He died of cirrhosis of the liver in New York. And now about cultural and historical context. Throughout the first half of the 20th century, New York City became a world center for industry, commerce, and communication. The first New York subway company began operating in 1904, and the railroads operating out of Grand Central Terminal and Pennsylvania Station thrived. Crime rates also increased as the city grew in size. Newspapers made household names of sensational criminals. At the turn of the century was noticeable New York City's ever-accelerating changes, rising crime and poverty rates. The Cop and the Atom is another story written about the life of ordinary people in New York City at the turn of the 20th century. Does this story say something about life in a big city? Do you think that life was different in New York at that time? Do you think that attitudes of people towards each other were different in New York at that time? Are there any people in your country who spend a night outdoors because they are homeless and have no money? Now, about the story itself, about the Cop and the Atom. In this story, a tramp named Soapy tries to get arrested. He does various evil things in order to enter the prison, so that he can spend the winter in jail. However, all of these attempts are quickly exposed as failures. When Soapy was greatly moved by the anthem from the church and determined to start a new life, a policeman captured him. He was tried 3 months captivity. Genre identification, the short story. The term short story usually refers to the modern short story. Therefore, it is a newer form of literature than other genres like drama, poetry, or novels. This genre packs a lot into a short format. It can be defined as a relatively brief prose narrative, usually characterized by uniformity of action, having as plot a single action and theme. It usually tells events with a definite beginning, middle, and end. It is frequent that short stories may have very little plot and never move to a completed action. A short story is usually centered on a single incident and usually contains one event focusing on a single aspect of life. Some stories mainly focus on action, some on theme. The number of characters in a short story is usually limited, though they are rather vivid, distinct, and developed. The story may belong to a particular type: psychological, historical, adventure, detective, science fiction, social, documentary, or be the mixture of a number of the types. In short, a short story reveals the following characteristics. It is short, it has unity, it is concise, nothing is wasted there. And now your response to literature. How would you behave if you had to spend a cold winter's night in the street? Have you ever been hopeless in life? How did you get over your hopelessness? By yourself? By someone's help? By some event? Have you ever decided to start a new life? How did you succeed? Will Soapy change? Do you believe that a man can be born anew? And now reading between lines. He scorned the provisions made in the name of charity for the city's dependents. In Soapy's opinion, the law was more benign than philanthropy. There was an endless round of institutions, municipal and eleemosynary, on which he might set out and receive lodging and food accordant with a simple life. But to one of Soapy's proud spirit, the gifts of charity are encumbered. If not in coin, you must pay in humiliation of spirit for every benefit received at the hands of philanthropy. As Caesar had his Brutus, every bed of charity must have its toll of a bus, every loaf of bread its compensation of a private and personal inquisition. Therefore, it is better to be a guest of the law, which, though conducted by rules, does not meddle unduly with a gentleman's private affairs. Why is charity so humiliating to Soapy? Can you feel the narrator's ironical attitude when he speaks about philanthropy? In his fancy, the island seemed an unattainable Arcadia. Why does the author compare the island to Arcadia? Does the word Arcadia suggest the author's ironical attitude?